in place at all right now.
Oh, when
Yeah.
is it gonna be in place?
Who knows?
Okay. Is there any public comment on this? Anthony?
This is fairly simple and should take about 10 seconds. The board will select one person and have a regional panel, but since the president is pretty occupied with a lot of neighborhood council business, as a former president and perhaps honorary parliamentarian, the vice president should be appointed. Thank you.
Good idea.
That's strongly objected.
Anthony needs to go on way. Okay. Anybody else? Board? Any discussion, questions? No?
If the vice president doesn't want to do it, I would be interested.
Okay, great.
Thank you. So let's go ahead and, oh, it is asking for a name. So we don't have a choice whether or not this panel is selected. We're just picking a name right now. I mean,
Yeah, every
Okay.
council is supposed to have a representative on the panel.
okay. Capricia, are you interested in serving on this panel?
How long, it meets once a month?
The system hasn't been set up, so
Not in place yet.
everything is up in the air because when city council passed it, our department said, look, we're not gonna be able to implement this until we get the funding and staffing to set it up. So there is some funding allocated in the new fiscal year, but I don't know how long it's gonna take for the system to go into place, so I can't answer a lot of the specifics, but like I said, I don't think it's gonna be like, written in blood, like if you put your name down now as the representative and it turns out that you can't serve, I'm sure you'll have an opportunity to select someone else.
Okay. I'll agree to it right now. If I have to recuse or dismiss myself because of work obligations, then I'll let the board know.
Thank you, Capricia. Is everybody, any objections to Capricia serving as a grievance?
Oh,
Where'd Sasha go? Sasha?
To who?
Sasha, can we have you back in the room, please? Sasha, back in the room.
Officer Camacho, can you apprehend Sasha? Bring her back.
Is she in the ladies' room?
She's a little busy.
Oh, she's in the ladies' room.
Oh, she is? Oh, there she comes. Okay.
Sasha, so we're talking about having Capricia as our panelist for the grievance panel. I was asking if there's any objections to that.
Sorry, I was in the restroom. No, I don't think I have any objections to it. You said she would be the panelist?
Well, I'm sorry. She would be a member of the regional grievance panel, which is not set up yet. We don't know when it's going to be set up. We could still use our grievance process. That would be the appeal process.
Is it kind of like the budget advocates? Is it somewhat
It would-
similar?
No, it's actually, so I'll talk to you about it later because I just explained it to everyone, but basically it's going to be another way for the system to handle grievances. So it'll be another layer in addition to your own bylaw process, which people could appeal to, or depending on the nature of the grievance, might automatically go. And so the idea is to have regional reps to look at another neighborhood council's grievances.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so no opposition to Capricia serving on the panel?
No.
Great. Thank you, Capricia. Moving on down. Oh, so this next section has to do with,
So 4 and 5, I mean,
those are already,
they're just going to be amended to your bylaws, basically.
we don't have a choice.
I mean, yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
There's no
The
choice.
department require, and that's nothing different than,
It's just basically incorporating into your bylaws
Into
what
the
you've already
bylaws.
agreed to do
Right.
with respect to your ethics training and your code of civility.
okay. Next is regarding elections, which are coming up this fiscal year. And this has to do with the voting and the types of votings that would be acceptable, right?
Correct.
Okay, so at this time, we have the opportunity to add online and telephone voting to our 2016 elections. Up until now, it's only been physical voting.
Correct.
Okay. So number 6 says your neighborhood council verifies its voters via documentation and will not have the online and telephone voting options added to your 2016 elections unless the board votes to include online voting. So we need to select whether or not we're going to include online voting, whether we want online voting with self-affirmation voter verification, or we want online voting with documentation voter verification. So self-affirmation is just pretty much honor system.
Essentially, but basically the independent election administrator will have, the person still has to basically sign and affirm that, I, so-and-so, am a stakeholder in the LA 32 Neighborhood Council by virtue of blah, 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 So they still have to affirmatively state that they are a stakeholder. It's under penalty of perjury, but it's a lot more like what we really do when we go to our regular elections, which is we pretty much just show up and we're registered and we vote, and they don't ask for ID, they just check you off on the roll, right? So whereas the documentation, obviously you have to provide documentation of what your stakeholder status is. And the IEA, the Independent Election Administrator, would be the one to look at that documentation and say, oh, this person is a resident, they brought their telephone bill, or this person is a business owner, she brought her business license. Or
Would you have to mail it, or?
okay, so that's the thing. So, so just to clarify, online voting would be in addition to an election day polling place, so it doesn't replace it. It would be both, right? And so a person who wanted to vote online would have to register ahead of time online. So if you do, well, actually not necessarily. They're going to have an option to register online or in person, right? And so they would have to submit their documentation in advance, register in advance, and they would get a code in advance that they could use to vote online. Every code can only be used once. The company that got the contract has pretty rigorous security in place. So if you do online with documentation, it's going to be a pretty interesting process. We don't know exactly how it's going to work out, but the idea is that they would have different methods of submitting the documentation. But then you have to be really on top of those timelines and letting your stakeholders know when are the deadlines for submitting their documentation. But they still could come in on election day and vote, so they're not going to be totally disenfranchised.
Okay, is there any public comment on this?
Thank you, Anthony Manzano speaking on this item. I'll be brief. This seems, in your mind, logical, but what happens is practical. Being the former president, making executive decisions it's not quite easy. But what I'm noticing is, since this is just a concept idea, hasn't been really used, verified, or utilized nationwide, statewide, or even citywide, why are they allowing the neighborhood councils to be the very first ones to practice on the new method? It sounds good, but then you think about it. What's wrong with waiting for the following year, and if it is a good idea, if the online voting does work, if it is productive, and it is secure, and there's no abuses, then maybe we could do this in the 2018 elections. There's no need to rush into this right now. Keep it standard, make sure everyone does participate, they come, sign their name, they're present, and what it does is it sort of limits the abuses. We don't know if there's abuses because there's securities involved, but we still don't even know what the securities are. So just for protection of the neighborhood council and for protection of the city, you allow those stakeholders to present themselves, they vote in person, and then if it's logical and practical in 2 more years, then the body can vote to say, we accept online voting. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you.
So just to address those concerns, it's the company that got the contract is called Everyone Counts. There's an FAQ on our website regarding the contract, the whole process, their history. It's a very reputable company, and they do government elections all over the world and the United States. They've been in business for 20-something years. They do the Grammy vote, they do the Oscars. The security is extremely tight. Security risk is really less than minimal. But there is going to be some logistical work to set it up, but the potential advantage is to greatly increase both the number of people who can participate, and also my understanding is that they're going to provide access to a large number of basically potential voters to assist with your outreach. So they will be building out the system that will enable you to basically increase your database by quite a bit. So that's the potential upside.
Question, on the self-affirmation, those who self-affirm their eligibility, is there any sort of audits that take place too?
So the election, the independent election administrator is responsible for verifying self-affirmation. Of course, it's a lot more honor system, but that is the method that most neighborhood councils use.
Okay, any on the board? You guys want to start, Capricia?
Did you want to start, June? I'm sorry, I keep on jumping in front of you. Okay, so I was the chair of the ad hoc elections and voter engagement committee, and one of the main reasons why we started that committee was to increase voter participation. I know we have Dr. Tom Williams here, who was a big advocate of a stakeholder and was a member of the committee who was a big advocate of increasing voter participation. So I am in favor of online voting with self-affirmation. We are neighborhood councils, we're the incubators, we are volunteers. We're not like city council paid $186,000. We're not like the president paid $144,000. We are volunteers here. So I think that we should be the sort of guinea pigs to get this adopted for the city, the state, the region, the nation. So I'm in favor of online voting. Just as an aside, I'm also in favor of telephone voting, and I'm in favor of voting by mail. People died for the right to vote, so I believe that we should have every single possible way to increase voter participation, to give access to more individuals to vote as much as possible.
So just to clarify on the vote by mail option, that's one of those questions that's really more of a survey.
Oh,
right,
okay.
at this point, we don't have the funding available for vote by mail, so it's just trying to determine who's interested in the possibility.
Okay, great.
Thank you. June, Victor? Are you not going to take a position?
No, she actually, I agree with Capricia.
So you're,
I think that any kind of outreach, that get more participation is a plus.
okay, because I'm asking for your actual preference right now. And so you're preferring just exactly what she does?
Yes.
We want online voting with self-affirmation, voter verification.
So you could call that B.
B, yeah. So we have 2 for B. Yoli?
Yes. Personally, I don't think we're ready yet for online voting. So I will vote for A. We do not want online voting.
Okay.
In the event that online voting is the preference, even though it will take extra steps, I would go with documentation. That is what we do in our regular elections in person. We do require verification. So I would stick with documentation if we were to go with online, but I prefer not to go online.
Okay, Luisana?
Online with verification.
C. Dama?
See.
Sasha?
I'm for B. I completely agree with everything that Capricia just said. I think that voting is extremely important. Any way we can get more people to get involved with the process, any way we can get more people to know about the neighborhood council, we should take advantage of it. You know, some states have it where you have to bring your ID when you come vote. Here in this state, we don't. And a lot of people in other states were really concerned that by taking away having to look at your ID, that people would abuse that law. And that hasn't happened. I don't really anticipate people abusing this either. And like Capricia just mentioned, we're not paid. This is completely on a volunteer basis. I think that we need to try to do outreach, especially when it comes to the younger people in El Sereno, because we do have a very young average population here.
Thank you. Arlie? B? I'm also in favor of B. So that's 5B, 1A, 2C. We're going to mark B. Online voting with self-affirmation, voter verification. Now on to telephone voting. This says it requires a lot of work in creating and recording scripts. You may choose to eliminate the telephone voting option if you believe your community will not use it. The default will be to have it, if you have chosen, wait, the default, okay, so if we chose online voting, which we did, the default would be to also have phone voting.
Right, but you don't have to have it because.
Yes, we could choose not to.
Yeah, because it's a lot of work. and-
Where are the funds coming from? Is the department?
So, yeah.
I mean, we're not gonna be charged, that won't come out of our election funds, would it?
No, I don't think the telephone vote, you know, that, I honestly, I have to check on that. I don't think the telephone voting is an additional charge. The vote by mail would be an additional charge to the neighborhood councils.
It would?
It would be, if, we don't even know we're gonna have it.
Oh,
Most
that's
likely,
right.
we're not gonna have it.
And you said online wouldn't be an additional.
So online is,
No, okay.
is paid for.
Okay, public comment on this? Anthony?
For telephone voting?
Yeah.
You would have to do scripts in probably English and Spanish.
We would have to do?
You would have to do them in English and Spanish of everybody, of all the candidates, the choices, the seats.
Are you still in favor of increasing the position?
Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry, before you talk, Anthony, that's sort of confusing. So it says we do not want telephone voting and not applicable. There's no box for like, we do want telephone voting. Telephone